State on the brink of a 10-win season, Sam Bradford, a head-over-heels winner of the Heisman Trophy, and an NBA team in Oklahoma City? Yeah, we saw all that coming. I'm sports editor Mike Sherman, and this is Press Row. My guests for this year's New Year's Eve edition are Barry Trammell, who's addicted to bowl watching, and Jenny Carlson, who's been watching Sam Bradford since he was a junior high star at Hefner. Let's start with the bowls, guys. Barry, does Missouri's so-so performance last night against Northwestern and the Pac-10's 2-0 performance so far in this early bowl season give us any pause as we sort of consider the outcome of tonight's Holiday Bowl between Oregon and Oklahoma State?
I think it's interesting. I think the Missouri performance is more an alarm for not just Oklahoma State, but for everybody in the Big 12. The Sooners' defense, dominant performance in Kansas City for the Big 12 title game, but Northwestern shut them down pretty good last night. So I'm not sure that portends well for the Sooners. In Miami, out in San Diego tonight, the Pac-10 has not been a good league this year. It went 1-6 against the Mountain West this year. However, in the bowl season, Arizona has beaten Brigham Young, and then another team won. Cal beat Miami. So coming up, USC plays Penn State, probably going to win. Oregon State has a chance to beat Pitt. Pac-10 all of a sudden looking good. I think this is a big bowl, not just for Oklahoma State, but for the Big 12 status.
Jenny, that OSU-Missouri game that you were at, how do you look at that now that Missouri is really in full decline?
Well, I think it probably, it isn't the win that it was the night it happened, because Missouri's since shown themselves to be a dominating North team, but not much else. They didn't really have any sort of success against anybody that wasn't in the North Division of the Big 12. So I think that changes a little bit, but I quit really trying to gauge anything in the bowl season off of what a conference does. In 2004, when the Pac-10 really didn't do much, and leading into the national championship game, Oklahoma and USC, you begin to think, well, maybe, USC's a little bit of a paper tiger, and then they just, beat the crap out of Oklahoma. So maybe it means something, but I'm not convinced that what's happened thus far is going to determine the outcome of tonight's game.
Guys, what does this bowl game, Oregon versus Oklahoma State, really boil down to for you?
Well, I think it boils down to this. It boils down to great opportunity for OSU. The teams are even. Both are ranked 13, 14, 15 range. Both excellent offenses, high-profile players. And to me, Oklahoma State in this decade, now not in the 80s under Pat Jones, but in this decade, OSU's bowl success has come in some sort of off-Broadway games, playing Indiana, playing Southern Miss, playing a 6-6 Alabama team that was sort of in turmoil without a coach. When they've stepped up and played a pretty rock solid opponent, Eli Manning, Ohio State, they didn't win. This is a rock solid opponent. To me, this is a prime opportunity for OSU to make a national statement.
I think there's going to be some interesting. I think it's really going to be the smallest of things that determine this game, because the teams are so close, like Barry said. A couple years ago, Oregon went to a bowl and got embarrassed, essentially. Last year, they go and handle business. This is a team that is going to be on the Oregon sidelines that's been on both sides of bowl success, being prepared, being ready, and not being ready to play a bowl game. They know what it takes. They know what it looks like. OSU's obviously had some bowl success, but it's been a while since they've been in a game like this, a spotlight like this against a really good opponent like this. So how they handle that and how they're prepared is going to really determine things, because I don't think you're going to see either defense stopping a whole lot. But turnovers and things like that could come down to nerves. It could come down to preparedness. And so is Oklahoma State focused and ready to go? That could really be a determining factor tonight.
One key to look at, special teams. Oklahoma State's very good. Dez Bryant, excellent return man. Oregon, not so great, particularly on punting coverage. We saw a game last night won essentially because Missouri got a touchdown out of the kicking game. Jeremy Macklin took one to the house. Same thing could happen tonight if Dez can do the same for OSU.
Barry, you've been our designated bowl watcher through this bowl season. You've been blogging about it on News OK and using your new toy, the DVR, to catch up on all the bowl action. What have you seen in this comprehensive view of bowls that's interesting to you?
Well, I got to see some prime coverage of my man Bill Stewart, my favorite coach, this side of DePaul's Eugene Linty. But great to see West Virginia win and Bill Stewart get to charm everybody again. The Big East is looking okay so far, and I'm interested when Pitt plays Oregon State, and I'm interested when Cincinnati plays Virginia Tech. Also, I was very intrigued by the Cal-Miami game. The Sooners play Miami next season. Watched that Emerald Bowl the other night, and since that game, Randy Shannon has fired his offensive coordinator. Patrick Nix got the boot yesterday. So, what's Miami going to do? Going to maybe change directions on offense, where they've been offensively challenged basically since the glory years of 01-02. So that's what I love about the bowls, is you get these matchups that you'll never see in September, which we should see but we don't. California, Miami, West Virginia, North Carolina, Missouri, Northwestern, Oklahoma State, Oregon. It's just, it's sort of a community gathering place that you don't get in the regular season.
Do you think that Miami team that you saw in the Emerald Bowl, did that look like a team loaded with young talent that the Sooners should fear next year?
I would fear them. I don't know that they're loaded, but I think they're better than they were 2 years ago and last year. So I don't know if they're getting better. They played with a backup quarterback. Robert Marv got suspended for the Emerald Bowl. The backup, Ja'Cory Harris, actually played pretty good. Made a turnover at the end of the game that cost him the game. But I think they're getting better at the quarterback position. So, I think that's a game you circle if you're the Sooners and say, hey, we gotta strap it on when we get down to Miami.
Okay, guys, on to the Sooners. We're a week plus out from the BCS title game, and seems to be the most compelling storyline remains Sammy B. Where will Bradford be playing next fall? Couple questions. One, a week after the BCS title game comes the decision time, January 15th, for everybody to decide if you're going to enter the NFL draft early. And then this week, Roger Goodell says, hey, don't worry about it. There's not going to be a rookie salary scale imposed upon you guys this coming up year, the next year, anytime in the future. And then right on the heels of that, Todd McShay of ESPN comes out with a list of his number one or his top 10 NFL draft prospects, and none other than Sam Bradford is number one. Which of these two things, in your mind, is more of a factor that sways Sam as far as his choice of whether to go into the NFL draft or not? You first, Jenny.
Well, I don't know if he's listening to Todd McShay, but I guess there's got to be some belief that Todd McShay at least has an idea in talking to NFL types how Sam Bradford ranks. So, in my mind, the money is obviously substantial. There's no doubt about that. But I think that the biggest decision for Sam is going to be, where's he going to be drafted? If you're a top 10, if you're a top, if number one is really where he could be, potentially could be drafted by the Lions in that spot, or, top 5, that's going to be a tough decision. It's going to be a tough no to walk away from that, regardless of whether, rookie salary scale could be enacted, tomorrow. It would still be a tough decision to make and walk away from if you are projected to be drafted that high. He's done a lot in his college career, and I think he's going to have to make a decision. Does he want to continue to play college ball, or does he want to take that next step in his life? And honestly, I don't know if money at the end of the day is ultimately the swaying factor for Sam Bradford.
The Lions?
Well, I actually think several things have come into play this season that will make it an interesting choice. I think he's got to factor in that potential rookie wage cap, and if that's not out there, then I think that makes it more likely that he might stay, because you have to think about it. Well, I can get $30 million next year. On the other hand, what we've seen in the NFL this year, and the NFL is the most classic league of trends and things going a certain way and everybody following suit. And what we've seen this year in the NFL is 2 rookie quarterbacks with unbelievable success, with Matt Ryan and Joe Flacco both taking teams to the playoffs. And to me, that's going to create sort of a mindset that, hey, you know what? You can throw rookies out there and be successful, and it's going to make rookies think, you know what? I can go be successful. I also think lots of things in play with Sam Bradford. I think I think how this game with Florida comes out. I mean, I think, and I'm not saying win or lose pushes him one way, but I think it could both ways. I mean, if you win, there's worse things to be in life than to be a college senior, junior in eligibility, but academically he'll be a senior. Be a college senior and have a Heisman Trophy in your lap and a national championship on your resume, and then walk the campus of Norman, Oklahoma. Worse lives to live than that. Matt Leinart did it out at Southern California, can tell you all about it.
It's all over the internet, too, by the way.
Yeah, that's right. So, I mean, I'm not even saying about wild times. I'm just saying it's a pretty good way to spend 9 months. But if you lose, maybe he thinks, I need to get that national championship. So, I mean, I think all these things will come into play with Sam Bradford. I also think people have told me, people close to him have said, now this guy is different than most college athletes who just, want the big payday and want the big spotlight. His family upbringing, his values are different. He might say, you know what, I can wait on the NFL.
Yeah. The thing that strikes me is that, rookie quarterbacks this year obviously making a splash. All rookie quarterbacks are not created equal. I think Sam Bradford's a lot more Matt Ryan than Jamarcus Russell. I think he has done some things in his college career that have set him up better to play at the NFL level. I mean, Jamarcus Russell, to me, a guy like that, I've heard some stories that he was basically having to learn some very basic things when he got to the NFL, like steps and drops and just things that are pretty rudimentary if you're a quarterback, but he wasn't playing that style in college. Sam Bradford has played more NFL-style football in the last couple years than a lot of guys that are heading into the NFL. So I think when you think about could he make a quick impact and play right away, I think a team like the Lions or the Chiefs or somebody like that, if they're thinking about drafting a quarterback, he looks to me to be probably the most ready to step in and potentially have a season like a Joe Flacco or a Matt Ryan had this year.
Interesting thing, though, about your comparison with the rookie quarterbacks. What also came with those rookie quarterbacks? A no-nonsense rookie coach. Somebody who came in and sort of changed the culture. That opportunity certainly exists for the Detroit Lions, who fired their coach.
And perhaps the Chiefs.
And perhaps.
Who also in the running for a quarterback.
Also, the Chiefs are just coming off a draft in which they had a bunch of high-round draft picks, sort of trying to retool their defense and lots of different things. So it'll be interesting to watch whether Sam Bradford and a new coach wind up in the same place. Okay, last question about OU and the BCS title game. Who is the most important player in that BCS championship game next Thursday, not named Sam Bradford or Tim Tebow? Barry?
Austin Box, if he plays, and if he doesn't, Mike Ballaghan or Nick Harris or whoever gets thrown in at middle linebacker. I think middle linebacker is a very important position against Florida because of a variety of things, most notably Mr. Tim Tebow, who is liable to come barreling right at you at any time. So if whether Box is healthy and able to play or Ballaghan has to step in or they move Harris or Lou, whatever they do, middle linebacker I think is ground zero in the national title game.
Couldn't say it any better, but I'll go on the other side of the ball for the Sooners and say the most important player over there is going to be Chris Brown. I think what they do with the running game is going to be really important. I mean, they don't have that second for sure thing. Now, Moses Madu is a very nice compliment, but they lose something with DeMarco Murray. So Chris Brown's going to have to play well. He's going to have to pick up some yards. That really helps Sam Bradford in the offense. So, and I think, too, the running backs are going to be important in picking up blitzes because you're going to see, I think, Florida blitz a lot to try to get to Sam Bradford. So those running backs in passing situations, they've got Matt Clapp at the fullback position, too. They've got to be ready to be Sam Bradford's last line of defense. So what Chris Brown does is going to have a great impact on what Sam Bradford and the rest of the Sooners do.
Okay, guys, let's move away from football and start with basketball. OU basketball. Are the Sooners Final Four worthy, Barry?
Oh, I think they're borderline. I mean, I don't know that. If I looked at them, just straight looking at them and watch them play, I'd say, just a little bit under the Final Four. But that doesn't mean anything. Lots of teams can make the Final Four by just playing a little bit over their head in March. It'll come down to all kinds of things. Can they hit a shot at the end in the crunch time of a Sweet 16 game? Can Blake Griffin stay out of foul trouble? If the answer, can they get quality point guard play when they need it? When those things are answered, if the answer is yes, They could make the Final Four.
They're showing up as a number 1 seed on some bracketologies. Jenny, what do you think?
Yeah. It's interesting because if somebody would have said at this point you're going to have a clear-cut obvious number 1, obviously in Blake Griffin, but who's your second best guy? Some nights it's Tony Crocker, some nights it's Willie Warren. You don't really have a clear idea of who that second go-to guy is. I would have said, that spells some trouble for me. And yet they continue to make it work, where Tony Crocker can be great one night, sort of fall off the radar the next, but yet they still have somebody come in and pick that up. I don't know if that's the greatest formula long-term for a Final Four, but yet these guys seem to be able to make it happen. If somebody could consistently become that second option to Blake Griffin, I really think that enhances their chance, because we've now seen they've got guys that can play and score a lot because they've sort of done this interchangeable parts thing. So I think they're on the fringe, and if they could get that consistent second guy, I really think they would vault themselves into definitely being Final Four worthy.
Okay, next question about basketball. OSU basketball. Does Travis Ford, the Cowboys' new coach, need a Dale Carnegie class? Barry.
Well, depends on if there's any talented 7-footers taking the class with him. I think Travis Ford's been fine. I don't see any problem with anything going on up there, other than the just lack of interior ball players. I mean, they're really good on the perimeter with Eaton and Harris and James Anderson and Obi Manella, the new Charles Barkley, apparently, rebounding every ball that's loose. But, they're just going to struggle as long as they don't have anybody inside. What's Blake Griffin going to do to him, for crying out loud? So, to me, they're fun to watch. They're just a little bit shorthanded.
The Dale Carnegie line, of course, coming from the reports of people sat behind the OSU bench at the All-College Classic and said he's an old-fashioned butt chewer as far as getting on to these guys.
You didn't have to sit behind the bench to hear it at the All-College, by the way. There were some times when I think everybody was going, I heard that.
It's rated R. There's no doubt about that.
Yeah, no, I think he's old school that way. I think he says what he thinks, and maybe sometimes reads it in the paper the next morning and goes, oh my gosh, that reads a lot worse than I meant it to sound. But, I think he came in with a style. They hired him accepting the fact that he was bringing in a different style. And it's going to take some time to implement it. And in the meantime, I think that puts his personality more out there on display, because everybody's wondering, well, what's going on, what to think. And so I think once the style gets implemented, if he can get all these guys that they have committed in this recruiting class to come in that, obviously he's recruited and wants for his style, if they can turn a corner and really start winning games with his style, I think his personality becomes just part of the picture and not the picture, because right now that is sort of front and center with the Cowboys.
Do they make the tournament?
I'd have to say no right now.
Okay. Next question. The Thunder and Thunder basketball. Will Nenad Kristic, the new acquisition, a 7-foot center from Serbia, will he help the Thunder avoid a season of infamy? Barry?
That depends on whether Nenad Kristic is Serbian for Bill Russell or not. Here's the deal. I think it's fun. I think it's interesting. It can't hurt. But the problem is, Kristic is apparently more of an offensive center than a defensive center. Really skilled, can score, can pass, can do all kinds of things. But what this team needs is somebody who protects the basket. It's just so easy to get to the basket on these guys, and easy to score when you get it in there. They're just sucking air on defense, and that's what they're really going to have to improve if they're ever going to take any steps this year or in the future. They've got to get a lot better on defense. So I don't think Kristic's going to make a huge difference. He'll help some, because last night Chris Wilcox, 6'8", and maybe really 6'7", spent some of his time guarding Shaq.
Right.
It was a mismatch, and Kristic he'll help some there, but he's not going to help them in the area they need the most help.
By the way, I was sitting under the basket and I heard Shaq keep calling him Melvin Eli. Jenny, does he make a difference?
Oh, you can't throw that at me and expect me to be able to. Okay, I think he will make a difference, but not a 20-win sort of difference. I think he'll help. I do think it's good news to people that the Thunder are spending some money, that they're going out and they're making some moves and they're doing some things to try to better the team. Because to me, that says that come the off season, when things are really bubbling and moving around, that they're not going to be afraid to do that. At least that's what I hope. How Nina Krishik plays out, I don't know. I mean, he's not been in the NBA for a while. He's been injury prone a little bit. So how he plays for these guys remains to be seen. But at least there's hope that maybe come the offseason, they're going to be looking to maybe make some moves and do some things.
Okay. Last two questions. Story of the year in 2008 for Oklahoma. Barry?
Well, it was obviously the NBA coming, the Sonics coming to town. We thought it would happen. We weren't sure when. We hoped it would come in the summer of '08, and turns out it did in theory. I mean, watching this team, you don't know if it's actually NBA basketball or not. You realize the Thunder has now been doubled by every team in the league at least. Minnesota wins last night. Washington wins last night. Those downtrodden teams both have 6 wins each. The Thunder still stuck on 3. But still, a monumental day for Oklahoma, a monumental event to become a permanent member of the NBA. The story of the year in Oklahoma, no doubt about it. Story of the decade, maybe the story of several decades, depending on how the story plays out.
Should I just say ditto or no? I think for people and their passion, I still don't know if you can compare what the NBA has got right now to what Oklahoma football has. And for Oklahoma football to be playing for a national championship and to have a Heisman winner that's a local guy, that's pretty significant. For people's hearts, I think there was a lot more probably love poured into that accomplishment and that story in 2008. But long term, the NBA and what it means for Oklahoma City and Oklahoma, obviously a much bigger story. But I still don't know if people's hearts are with the NBA like they are with Oklahoma football in this state.
Finally, bold prediction for '09. You go first, Jenny.
Well, I'm going to piggyback on what we were talking about earlier with Nina Krishik. I think the Thunder are going to make a big offseason acquisition. I don't know who it's going to be, but there are some guys that I think that they might go after, either trading or signing as free agents. I just think there's some signs that they're under the cap, they've got money, and obviously with ticket sales like they are, they're making nice coin right now with all the season tickets that they've sold and all the corporate dollars that they have. I think they're going to go after somebody big in the offseason. It's not going to be like a Kobe or anybody like that, but they're going to get somebody nice in here next year.
How about a Peja Stojakovic?
I could live with that.
That scale? That worked pretty well. Barry?
Anybody can make a basket. I'm all for it, or guard it, either one. Bold prediction. Let's go with this. Bedlam football 2009. If Sam Bradford returns to the fold, Bedlam football 2009 will be for the Big 12 South title. They will play for the championship of the Big 12 South next season. Sooners and Cowboys.
Nothing bigger than that. That's all for the Press Row. Listen, stay with the best coverage team anywhere, every day at newsok.com and every morning in the New Look Oklahoman.